science critic, and he talked a little bit about prediction. He made a video about prediction. And like I said the other day, in fact, I've been talking about that the last couple times, he never understood, and he still doesn't understand the difference between an explanation and a description. And until he does, he's just spinning his wheels. He thinks that an explanation is just a description and vice versa, and one is a synonym of another. They're not. Okay? Explanation is not a description. Description is not an explanation. And all predictions are just descriptions. They are not explanations. If you can explain why something is going to happen, now you're talking about the past and not about the future prediction. Okay? So here it is. Let me put them on. The questions and issues to be addressed in this rebuttal include: a prediction is just a description. A description is not a theory. A description is not an explanation either.
Let's take this example. Someone says we're next going to see Halley's Comet in 2061. Now, how are they working that out? Well, they've worked out that we see Halley's Comet every 75 to 76 years, and the last time that we saw it was in 1986, so the next time that we'll see it will be in 2061. Now, that is an explanation for why. You can always ask, okay, why do we see it every 75 years? And the answer to that is, well, it circles the sun. And you can ask, why does it circle the sun? Well, it circles the sun because of gravity. But if someone says that in 2 years it's going to go through a wormhole, so we'll end up seeing it in 5 years, then that is a prediction that can be tested. If that doesn't end up happening, then we know that that explanation that they gave is false.
Okay, so what is the problem? The problem is, again, he doesn't understand the difference between an explanation and a description. No mathematician ever does. Okay, that's why they confused math with science, because science is about explaining, and mathematics never explains anything, has no power, no authority to explain. All it can do is describe, and predictions are descriptions. And so they get this issue where they say, we can predict. Oh, that means you know. And science is about knowledge, so predictions are part of science. That's more or less how they figure this out. And it turns out that, no, science is about explanation, so it doesn't have anything to do with knowledge or with predictions. Okay? In science, we do not know. In science, we do not predict. In science, we have to explain a mechanism as it relates to physics. Okay, so here we have the situation. Here, step by step. Circles the sun, that's not a cause or an explanation. Okay, the fact that it circles the sun, you still have it, that's another description. You're saying it circles the sun. But you haven't answered the question. The question is, what causes? And by saying circles the sun, you haven't answered the cause, the mechanism. Because of gravity. Again, you haven't explained the cause. Gravity is not a cause. Gravity is a description. You're saying, well, every time I let go of the pencil, it falls to the ground. Why? Because of gravity. Well, so far you just put another word in it. You just described. You haven't given me a mechanism. Okay, gravity is not a mechanism. Gravity is just a word that's used to describe the effect that you still don't understand. Okay, so let's separate descriptions from an explanation. We'll return in 5 years, you know, the comet, right? That's a description. So, in other words, you just made a prediction. You say it will return in 5 years. Okay, whether it does or not is irrelevant. Okay, because all you did so far is describe. A prediction is just that, a description. But then he says, swallowed by a wormhole or whatever. It doesn't matter. Now you've given an explanation. You said this is the cause. The cause it will come back in 5 years or in 2 years or whatever is because it went through a wormhole. Okay? And now you're giving a mechanism. You say, look, we'll assume that everybody understands what a wormhole is. Okay? It goes through this hole, and somehow there's an effect there that causes the comet to appear earlier or later or whatever. Okay, so you're explaining why the comet is not going to appear in 75 years, but in 5 years, in 2 years, or whatever. Fine, no problem. And you're saying it's because it goes through a wormhole. The wormhole does something. As long as you can explain that something, because again, the wormhole is up there. And again, wormhole is an irrational explanation. Why? Because wormholes, is an equation. and equations don't swallow, comets. But you're treating the wormhole, assuming, you make the assumption that a wormhole is a physical thing, then you could say, well, it does something to the comet. It slows it down, it speeds it up, you could do all that kind of stuff. Only if the wormhole is a physical object. Otherwise, it's an irrational explanation. And here, let me show you what a wormhole looks like, okay? You always wanted to know what a wormhole looks like? Here it is, okay? I'm the first guy to show this on planet Earth, okay? So get your cameras ready, okay? Here it goes. This is what a wormhole looks like, okay? And this comes out of the Wikipedia. It says, an example of a traversable wormhole metric is the following. It shows a bunch of letters that with pluses, signs, and negative signs in front of them. And what is all this? Well, this looks like an equation to me. One type of non-traversable wormhole metric is the Schwarzschild solution. And there you have another equation. Then the original Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is what a wormhole is technically called, was described, not explained, okay, was described in an article published in 1935 for the Schwarzschild spherically symmetric static solution. There we have it, okay? So what a wormhole looks like is an equation. That's what it is. It's an Einstein-Rosen bridge. It's an equation. That's all it ever was. Okay, so this notion that people have, oh, it's a hole that goes from our universe to another universe or whatever. You enter here through the black hole, you come out the other side through a white hole or whatever. All that nonsense, it's an equation. That's all it is. Okay, wormhole, equation. Einstein-Rosen bridge. Okay, so you can't say that. So in that sense, it's an irrational explanation because they're saying, okay, the wormhole is going to speed up the comet. Okay, fine. How did it do that? Well, you say, well, wormhole has these properties and that's why it did it. Okay, now you're giving an explanation. But the problem is that the wormhole is an equation and you can't use that to explain a physical mechanism. So even his example was wrong. He could have used something else. But explanation is past tense. Okay? You explain a consummated event. And so even if you say, look, why is what's going to happen to the comet? It's going to come in 5 years. So far, you only did a description. Now, someone says, why is it going to come in 5 years? Okay, and the guy says it's going to come in 5 years because of a wormhole. Okay, it does something to it, whatever. Well, it only works in reverse. Explanations only work in reverse. Okay, and the way it works is once it happened, once it comes back in 5 years, you can say this is the cause. This is what caused the comet to come back in 5 years instead of 75 years. Now you can explain retroactively what happened. You say it went through a wormhole. That speeded it up. Only them can use it like that. But if you say it in advance that it's going to go through a wormhole, well, how did you know it's going to go through a wormhole now? Okay, that's the issue. Okay, and that's going to be a little tough to answer. Okay. Again, explanations only in retrospect, not in advance. In advance, it's only prediction. If you can explain it, you either had the experience with it, it happened once, which in this case never happened, so you can't use that as an experience. And for that, you can only wait until the event happens to talk about it in retrospect and say, now I can explain why the Halley's Comet, came in 5 years instead of 75 years later.